Eve just for a little period of time that I can get some of the recording of it, people get participating. All right, I'll start off with the roll call. This is the cyber, I think right now, cyber committee. We're calling it, I think, the Green Team. I'm not sure if that's the final name decided, but let's start off. Okay, Alan?
Here.
Okay, Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Okay, Mr. Davis? Not here yet, so I will, when he comes, we'll put him down as a late. Okay. Mr. Farina.
Here.
Mr. Goldstein.
Here.
Mr. Malsberg. Is Mr. Malsberg there? Nope. Okay, we'll see. I'll put him blank. Okay. And Mr. Malinsky, are you available?
I'm here.
Okay. Mr. Oppenheimer.
Here.
Mr. Schinover.
Here.
Okay, and we have Mr. Tyler. Okay. Now,
Bob?
yes.
Excuse me. Is the intent to have, I think we said it's limited to 13 players per night?
13 players per night.
Is the intent to have everyone on camera?
Well, the intent would be yes, because how else are you going to be able to show the emotion and the debating and stuff like that? Hold on one more split second. Wilbur and Associates. Here. So the answer to the question is yes, because that's supposed to be part of the fun of the game, where you'll be able to see everybody and talk and see the individuals. That's supposed to be one of the, shall we say, advantages of this.
And do we know if there's going to be an issue potentially with GoToMeeting being able to handle that many cameras at the same time?
It can handle 25
Okay.
at the current rate that I'm paying. And we need to test that out. Thank you for the
All right,
question.
thank you.
Okay.
Pardon? Oh, okay.
Okay. So now this is interesting because I said equals B8 to B17, and it didn't count right. That's very interesting. That's not 10 people. Oh well. Thank you, machine. Thank you, Excel. All right. Now, I'm going to, since everybody knows each other, you could bypass the introductions, but technically, as a little test, each person would introduce themselves, and they would state their name. They would then indicate what state they are representing. Everybody can choose whatever state they'd like to. Eventually the game would be required, that you would hopefully run for office at a later point in time, but we're not worrying about that now. And then the getting to know you question for today is what was your favorite vacation and why? What was the best vacation you had in your life and why? And I'll start off backwards with Mr. Schinover.
My best vacation?
Ever.
I don't know, camping?
Okay, and where'd you go camping?
I actually don't remember. I was a kid.
You were stoned the whole time, or drunk or something. Okay.
Some sort of a dinosaur park, I guess.
Okay. Mr. Oppenheimer, what was your best vacation and why?
It was a Caribbean cruise several years ago where my parents treated my wife and I and both my brothers and their wives to the cruise. And so just being with the family and something like that was really nice. And also there were a ton of activities that you could participate in if you wanted, or you could do nothing and just sit by the pool or read a book.
Thank you very much. Mr. Malinsky, can you think of one of the best vacations you ever had and why?
My favorite vacation will be the one that I'll be taking at the end of March, where Yvonne and I will go to Portugal in Lisbon, where our daughter's been studying abroad, where she will then lead us through the hills of Lisbon, and I conspire to create a rendezvous with my film school chum from Persia. I dare not say Iran because the NSA doesn't know that Persia and Iran are the same thing. Listening to this, I hope to have a wonderful vacation, because up until this one coming, I don't think I have one that's memorable other than the one where I met my wife in the first place.
Okay, well, that's
How about that?
good. Now, you said you're going to Portugal. Is that where the lesbians are?
Yes, hopefully my daughter has not converted to be a lesbian, but in fact has become sensitized to the incredible urban art that goes on in that impoverished country beyond. I mean, it's all probably only equal to Detroit in its urban decay.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that fact. Okay, somebody just joined us, I think.
That would be me.
Okay,
Okay,
the NSA.
yes, he is representing the NSA. So, just we're talking about Lisbon. Never mind. All right, Mr. Goldstein, would you like to tell us about the best vacation you had and why?
Yes, that would be sailing a windjammer cruise in the British Virgin Islands. An incredible experience. They don't have windjammer cruises anymore, but you'd basically be on a deck of a 90-foot sailing ship, barefoot. You'd help raise the sails every morning, and we'd sail to a different island every day. It was the closest thing to paradise I've ever experienced.
Okay. I
have to interrupt. Dave, I was on a windjammer, and I agree it was quite an experience.
All right, Neil, great. Which windjammer were you on? Do you remember?
The Phantom, which actually about 10 or 15 years ago, it sank in a storm, and the crew all died. They tried to outrun a hurricane.
I remember. I was not on the Phantom. I can't remember the one I was on now.
Okay.
But it was nice.
I was going to say, I was thinking you were going to refer to coming down to Sarasota one summer. Never mind.
I remember Sarasota. That was a great vacation, except for the fact that we brawled in the daytime sun.
That is true.
I think it was July or August.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was. All right. Now, Mr. Farina, would you like to enlighten us on your most favorite vacation and why it was?
Well, every vacation is the greatest vacation when you're taking it, but the one I think on fondly is we were up in Sutton's Bay in the Leelanau Peninsula in Michigan, and had a great place to stay in this executive, gorgeous log home on the water, and just had a lot of activities planned, and the weather was great, and enjoyed people, enjoyed life, enjoyed each other. It was a great time.
Thank you for sharing. Mr. Davis, can you tell us the most favorite vacation you ever had and why?
That would have to be a tie, being it's me. Of course it would have to be a tie. California, 2004, and Grand Traverse Bay, 2005. California, 2004, I was out there for 2 weeks. Flew into Sacramento, spent a day with a friend there, drove down the coast, hitting Monterey Bay for 2 days, hit Santa Barbara for a day, spent like 8 days in LA with one of my best friends, and we went to San Diego for Comic-Con, and came back, and then I went back to Sacramento, and then we went to San Francisco with I went to San Francisco with a friend who was no longer a friend, but let's see.
That's good enough. That's good enough. That's good enough.
All right.
And I want you to do a mic check. You're coming across as the strongest. Maybe you might want to move the mic just a little bit away from your from you, so that won't be just blasting us. But thank you.
Oh, I'm pretty far away from it right now.
You've got great speaking power. Mr. Cohen, would you like to tell us your favorite vacation and why?
After I graduated from college, I did the thing that everybody does after they graduate from college. And so one of the things we did while we were in Europe is we were able to go into East Berlin of all places, and that was pretty exciting. In East Berlin, this is still at that time there was still World War II damage. You could see bullet holes and things in the walls of East Berlin buildings, so that was really exciting.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you very much. And finally, last but not least, Miss Allen, would you like to tell us about the best vacation you had and why?
My favorite vacation was probably when I went to Spain. Mostly because I was old enough to appreciate it. It was a great cultural experience. We traveled all over Spain. My favorite was probably Barcelona. So it was very memorable.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next thing we are going to do is look at the possible legislation available for us today. And where is it? Timekeeper, Cyber Congress, School Board? Okay. In terms of the legislation that is available for us to discuss today, you've all had a chance to look at it. The first piece of legislation is offered by Mr. Oppenheimer, representing the great state of Arizona, and that is the bill to eliminate all trade sanctions against Cuba. We have another bill offered by Ms. Allen for the discrimination of ownership of pit bulls and other dog breeds. And then we have the third bill, which is a bill to authorize a limited war on ISIS. Now, because I am not supposed to be the individual there, I have a volunteer from our group who will take over the sponsorship on this bill. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Davis. I'm glad to know that you'll act as the sponsor of this bill to the best of your abilities to do so. Okay. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so that'll be the bill. Okay. Now, the first order of business for tonight's round of play is each one of you has a single vote to say how many of you would like to have the bill to eliminate all trade sanctions against Cuba. Now, please forgive me because I have to try to do two things at one time. I haven't had a chance to copy the bill over, but let me see if I can move this over to the side here and see if I can still open up the other app, which will be here, and that's not working. So we'll just have to do it by individuals. All right, second here, and let me move this over. Sorry about that. But one thing I do want to do is there anybody that doesn't, besides Eve, have a camera available? Joel, I want to try to get one snapshot of at least several of the people on the screen, just one snapshot of it. So one more time, Eve, just give us a quick face. Oh. And
hold on, I don't look great. I warn you. I don't know if you're actually.
I don't care. I don't care. I just want to get a quick for the purposes of the commercial we're hoping to have on this thing.
Let's see the kitchen. Huh?
There's a in the upper right-hand corner. There's a little camera. If you click that, it puts a photo of everybody on your desktop.
That's good to know. I'm gonna just do this and from Snagit, so at least it'll be good. Let me try one more with Snagit. I think I got,
Hold on. Have you taken it? Hold on.
Kind of like the Batman show, right? Where everything's on an angle. I can have a little biff and pow, maybe,
Okay.
Biff Bam Pow, I think, wasn't it?
Bam Pow, right. Right.
There's 3 of them, yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. Hopefully this will work. All right. I'm gonna close.
The only man that could hit you so hard, words appear out of thin air.
There you go.
Bob, sorry I'm late, but if you remember, I don't have a camera on this computer.
Well, I'm glad that you're.
Through without the drink, Bob.
I'm glad that you're here, Mr. Malzberg. And oops, sorry, wrong one. Let me try to. God, when you have so many things to handle. All right. All right. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. All right. There, I got it. Okay, well, Mr. Malzberg, you kind of missed the introduction, so you're just going to have to play along with us. We're right now in the process of making a decision for this evening, which bill are we going to work on. And because I can't do a roll call and I don't have everybody's name here, let me just ask, how many people want the bill to eliminate Cuba? Just
Eliminate Cuba?
Yes, all trade sanctions against Cuba. So how many, just give me your name if you vote in favor of that being the bill for tonight.
Neil.
Okay, that's one.
Ethan.
Mark Cohen.
Mark Cohen, okay.
Eve.
Eve, okay, anyone else?
Gary.
Okay. What else? Okay, the next one about the dogs. How many people want to have a discussion tonight about the dogs?
You can only vote once, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll move on to bill to authorize a limited war on ISIS. Mr. Davis, since you're the sponsor of the bill, you voted yes. Anybody else?
Yeah, Dave.
Okay.
What is the what's okay?
These 3 bills, we can only vote on one?
That is correct. We have to select the bill for tonight's discussion.
Ah.
So I have 2 votes. Is there anybody who has not voted?
I haven't voted.
Okay. Which of the bills you want?
What if I don't want to vote?
Oh, please, David. David, please.
Huh?
Zelensky for the war. I like limited war.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Schinover, you're the last person. Which one do you want?
Sure, I'll vote on that one too.
Oh, let's see. Yes, it's still 5-4. Okay, fine. So this is the bill that we're going to work on, and if we had theoretically time, we would move on to this bill, which may be the bill of choice for the following week. All right, now that we've got that, I will quickly this over to and close this. Let me just make sure I don't close the wrong thing here. A second here. Oh, God, come on. Okay. Let me close this one. I don't need that. Open up this one, and this is screen.doc. I did not want screen.doc, so let me try again. All right, the ISIS bill has not been accepted, so we'll close that. Oops. Cancel, cancel. Let me try again. Sorry. This is the dog bill, and that's not what I want. Let me try again. Dog bill is now gone, and a Cuba. Okay, here is the bill for the decision to remove the Cuban trade embargo. Neil Oppenheimer, and what I'm going to try to do my best is to be, it's been suggested by some people that you can be a scribe as well as, I'm going to try to get the scoreboard on the other side and try to keep track of the score while you guys also go through the bill. Okay, and be mindful that because this was, let's see, whose bill was this one?
Neil.
Neil. So Neil, you would have gotten today 15 points because your bill was chosen. Okay. Now, you will get, for every fact you guys add, you get research fact, you get 10 points. For every pro, for every con, and for added details, you get 2 points. So I will do my best to try to track the points and see if we can function with one person as facilitator and working on that. Now, initially, Mr. Oppenheimer, you have an opportunity to talk about the bill, the summary, and the background, and any facts that you've produced so far. So would you like to begin a quick summary of the bill?
Yes, I do have one question though. In terms of the process that we're using for the game now, the updated version, the one that you emailed us, or David or somebody, my understanding is we would actually be voting on the bill tonight. It's kind of it'd be a final vote tonight.
Yes,
is
that is it.
Pardon?
That's it. That is correct.
So everything would be done in tonight's session.
Yes, the idea is to add, make it rapid, make it enjoyable, have some serious discussion about it, and at the end of it, we would wrap up and have a final vote and theoretically tally the vote, and that would be the end of a session.
Okay.
Okay, so if you would go ahead and start with your summary and any impassioned reasons why you feel this bill should be passed. And then we will go into open debate.
Okay.
Excuse me, open information. Open information, then comes debate. Okay.
As indicated in the summary, the purpose is to remove the United States trade embargo, including travel restrictions on Cuba. And this would be an opportunity for us to improve relations with Cuba, not only in trade, but just diplomatic relations as a whole, and also to try to hopefully get them to improve their human rights policies and adopt democratic reforms. And as you can see in the background, Fidel Castro has been in charge of Cuba since 1959, and basically one of the intent of the embargo was to remove Castro from power. And clearly that's not been successful in over 50 years. He and his brother still remain in power. And in terms of the facts of the situation, Cuba is close to the United States geographically, but the embargo is not an absolute embargo. So can you hold up 1 second here, please? Hold on. Sorry for the delay there. Dinner has arrived. Let me get my... So there is trade with Cuba, but it's just one way, where we sell some items to Cuba, but we do not purchase anything from Cuba. And this has been going on for a number of years. And also, whoops, clicked on, oh, here we go. That the United Nations, that most of the countries that comprise the United Nations General Assembly have been voting in support of the United States removing the trade embargo. And Cuba is still listed as a country that sponsors terrorism on the United States. Pardon? Bob, how long do I have to review this stuff?
You are doing fine. You're doing fine.
Okay. I feel like I'm talking fast to get through in time here. But one of the barriers to removing the trade embargo is that the United States passed legislation several years ago that requires that the embargo not be lifted unless Cuba respects, quote, internationally accepted standards of human rights and democratic values. So that would have to be changed or recognized that Cuba has either achieved that, or we'd have to change the language to remove that requirement. And also there is a precedent where the United States does have trade relations with other countries that have human rights violations, including China and Vietnam. So there's a precedent for that. And as far as the pros, as I indicated earlier, that the primary goal of removing the Castros from power has not been achieved after 50 years. It seems like it's time, let's try another approach to this. And another important item is that at the time that the embargo was put into place, that the United States and Russia were experiencing the Cold War, and a lot of the concerns relative to the Cold War no longer exist, including the concern about the expansion of communism throughout that geographic area. And let's see, as far as the cons, Cuba has not met the requirements, the legislative requirements to lift the embargo. And those were the ones I referenced earlier about human rights and political activities. And the embargo does arguably provide the United States with leverage to pressure Cuba to improve its situation with human rights and adopting democratic reforms. And Cuba in the past has supported acts of terrorism.
Okay, let's stop right here, and now let's open it up for general questions and answers that would be directed to the Honorable Neil Oppenheimer. Eve, do you have any questions about the bill?
Not at the moment.
Okay, Mr. Cohen?
No, not about the bill.
Okay.
But
Davis?
No.
Mr. Farina?
Not on the content of the bill.
Okay, Mr. Malzberg?
Yeah, I had a question about the cons, the supporting terrorism. What's the terrorism they're supporting?
I
That's
don't.
a con to be considered.
Pardon, Ethan?
If that's a con to be considered, what's the terrorism? Are they training people? Are they sending arms to terrorists? I don't know anything about Cuba doing terrorism.
Right. I'm afraid I don't know off the top of my head what that is, other than my understanding is it's not been real recent, that it was many years ago. Does anybody have any, can you add anything to that as far as any detail on what those acts might have been, or what that support would have constituted?
Well, when the U.S. invaded Grenada, there was the allegations that there were Cuban soldiers in Grenada. So that was a pretext for Ronnie to invade Grenada.
Oh, okay. I don't recall that. I thought that they'd actually been involved. I don't know if they'd actually, Cubans were involved with what's the term we're looking for? Actually committing the acts of terrorism, as opposed to maybe providing support, which may have been weapons and money and maybe strategy. But I don't know for sure on that, Ethan.
Okay, very good, Mr. Malzberg. I appreciate that. Mr. Malinsky, any questions for the esteemed Mr. Oppenheimer at this point?
No, I'm in support of the bill, having been half Canadian most of the time.
You're only restricting to general questions.
No questions.
Just questions. Okay, Mr. Oppenheimer, you've already helped us. Mr. Schinover? Mr. Schinover? Dave? Unfortunately, we must have lost him. His mic is muted. Dave, your mic is muted. Okay, we'll skip him at this point in time. Okay, now we're going to now go backwards, and we're going to offer the opportunity for you to add any pros and why you think these pros are important for this piece of legislation. So we'll start off with Ms. Allen. Do you have any pros that you would like to offer?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Cohen?
The pro that I would like to offer is that this trade embargo singles out specific nations, and I think it singles out specific nations to satisfy political groups in the United States, meaning the Cubans in South Florida.
Okay.
And there are other.
I'm sorry.
There are other nations.
Can you? I apologize. I'm trying to capture what you said. Could you start again? You said the current the pro is, in other words, your support is because the trade embargo, and now continue. I'll try to write.
No, I think what this trade embargo is, it's a pick and choose on the part of the United States to single out nations that fall into political disfavor because maybe of pressure groups in the United States, meaning that this trade embargo was heavily supported by Cuban exiles in South Florida. And there are a lot of other nations in the world that could easily be targets of trade embargoes and are not. So I think this legislation, the legislation that it wants to repeal, is an unfair piece of legislation because it singles out nations in biased ways.
All right, I want to capture those words. In biased ways to respond to internal U.S. political constituencies. Okay, so I'm going to put that as, that's Mr. Cohen, C-O-H. Okay, so you're going to get credit for that one. Any other pros that you would like to offer why this piece of legislation should be defeated? Excuse me.
Why it should be defeated.
Excuse me. Should be passed.
I would suggest that with the opening of tourism, it would make the country itself more transparent, making it more difficult for continued human rights violations.
Very good. Make it more difficult to, again, can you finish that, to make it more difficult to
continue human rights violations.
And I'm going to call spelling amnesty here. Okay, so that would be Mr. Farina. Does anybody else like to add? Mr. Goldstein, do you have any that you'd like to add why this bill should be passed? Any pros?
Yeah, no pros.
Okay. Mr. Davis, did you have any pros that you wanted to add?
No, not right now.
Okay. Mr. Mollsberg, do you have pros or cons that you'd like to add? Well, let's focus on, do you wish to add a pro?
No, I think you hit everything.
Okay. Mr. Malinsky?
No, nothing to add. I think the comments that have been forward are great.
Okay. And Mr. Schinover? David Schinover? Okay. Let me see who this is. It might be him. No, it's Rite Aid. They're not going to add any pros. Okay. Then I will now open it up to any cons.
Excuse me, Bob.
Yes.
Excuse me. I have a procedural question for you.
Okay.
Is it going to be the responsibility of the facilitator to determine if any additional information, either pro, con, or detail, if that's added, or is it automatically added if someone suggests something? In other words, if someone suggests a pro, and let's say either me as the sponsor or others as well disagree with that, does that come into play, or is it going to be up to the facilitator? Who makes the determination whether someone gets that added in so they get points for?
I think if there's debate on it, it could even be called for a vote. But right now, I would encourage people to add points, and if you disagree, is at an appropriate moment after the individual has offered their pro and given their reason, then you can say why you don't think that's valid. And then if it gets controversial, we'll have nice debate, and then a quick vote could be had.
Okay, thank you. I have no problem with the two that have been added. I was just, like I said, it was a procedural item. Thank you.
Thank you very much on that. Okay, so I think we were asking for, now let's move on to cons. Who might be particularly against this piece of legislation and would like to offer reasons why it should not be supported? Goldstein?
Screw those commie bastards.
Sorry?
Oh.
Oh, no, what was it like that? Say that, please. What did
I
you
said
say?
screw those commie bastards, but that wasn't.
Do you know commie bastards is the appropriate term?
Okay.
They got some really good sandwiches.
So
Should
that
put that under. Could have put that under pro. My bad.
Oh, okay. That's. I like that. I'm going to put that down. A bit of humor here.
I question that one because I think you can get good sandwiches in Miami.
Okay, and that was Mr. Mollsberg, right? Yes. Okay.
Of course. Always thinking with my stomach. That's me.
That's okay. I like that. Checking for anybody else that has any reasons why this should not. I'm sorry, Eve, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Good.
I don't have anything.
Okay. All right, Mr. Shinover, one more time. Okay. Unfortunate. All right. So now.
You give me a chance to make my comment
Oh, I'm sorry. Please, please.
on the cons. Cuba has seized American assets, sizable number of American assets, following the revolution, and has not returned those, not offered to return those assets, and has not returned those assets.
This is a really good one. Thank you. It had seized lots of U.S. assets, including a lot from the mafia, and has not offered any reparations.
Reparations.
Yeah, thank you. Whatever. Don't worry about stuff.
No, close enough for now.
Right. So this is a Goldie. All right. Thank you very much. You got any more? Anybody else has got why this should not be passed? Okay. Would anybody like to offer any details that we'll need to, besides the one detail? Actually, it's kind of, well, it's all considered one detail, which Mr. Oppenheimer gets credit. Does anybody want to articulate some details that would swing your vote either way? Because if it doesn't have this detail, you may not be in favor, or you definitely want to see this detail in the piece of legislation. You don't have to go explicit. You might say, somebody's got to do this, or somebody's got to do that, or if you have a specific detail. So we're now open up for anybody who wants to offer any details.
This is Neil. I could be wrong in it, but I thought I had more details than that on the one
Yes,
that I
you did, because I remember, if you recall, last week when we prepared for this game, we said the only thing we would want to see would be the pros, no cons, and maybe one detail just to show people,
Oh, okay. I wasn't here last week, so I.
Right.
But okay, because I thought I'd submitted more than that.
Right. And
Okay.
I don't want you to give any more because you gave so many, and it's good. I'm hoping your colleague here will think of something that should be passed with this legislation. In other words, saying we better have a detail that if they do this, then we'll change our minds. Or any detail that you guys think is important. And I'll start off once again with Mr. Shinover, if he's here. Okay, Mr. Valinsky, any detail that you would like to see in this piece of legislation that might swing, a vote in favor of it? Any details?
I think we should encourage rapid tourism and offer triple frequent flyer miles on all bookings. That it should be in the law that we just primarily it's a tourist invasion, I think, is what we should promote.
Thank you very much.
Encourage, in essence.
Right, and details how. And let's see, that's Mr. Malinsky. Okay. Anybody else want to offer a detail? Mr. Malzberg, can you think of anything you'd like to see in this?
No, I'm good. Nothing serious. No.
Anything funny?
Other than dance lessons, I'm good. Cubans can dance. I actually have a whole bunch of Cuban friends in Miami and Fort Lauderdale area. I never go to the club with them. I look like the token white boy.
Okay, thank you very much. I like that. Okay, so that was Mr. Malzberg. All right. Does anybody else, like Mr. Goldstein, do you have a piece of detail you'd like to see, serious or otherwise?
I'm thinking.
All right, Mr. Farina, while Mr. Goldstein thinks.
I'm thinking not having time to research this, it makes it a little difficult.
Well, use your brain power. I mean, just think of it this way: if we're gonna kill the embargo, do you want to put limitations, like, for example, the maximum a bank can invest in the company, or do you want to control the number of tourists per day, per week, per month? I mean, is there any kind of detail you'd like to kind of see in this legislation? Meanwhile, Mr. Goldstein, you've been thinking. Any ideas?
Yeah. Well, my thinking was that Cuba recently released an American by the name of Alan. Can't remember his last name now. Somebody might fill that in. For distributing computers and internet capabilities to members of the Jewish community in Cuba, for which he was imprisoned for many, many years. Cuba released him recently for diplomatic expediency, but the incident demonstrates that Cuban authoritarianism remains in place.
Well, is that a detail that you want to put in the registration, that if anybody is ever arrested, then we will withdraw, we will go back to the embargo? That would be a detail. Or did you just offer another con? To me, it's almost like another con.
Well, I was laying out a fact.
Yes, but
drawing a conclusion from the fact.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you a choice. Either you can define it as a con, or if you can think of a specific thing the legislation would have to have in it that would respond to the circumstances to which you just described, we can add a piece of specificity. I will go ahead, while you're thinking about that, I'm going to put it in. A recent arrest and release shows those Cubans can't be trusted and are still authoritarian.
Can't, or cannot.
Thank you.
Although the argument could be made that the opposite is true as well, Dave, I think, in the sense that, wasn't it didn't we release like 3 or 4 Cubans that we had in custody here that had been, what was the deal? Mark, you may be, was this the one with the 3 people that were involved with something about, I can't remember, I just remember the Cuban community in Miami was really upset when we...
We captured them because they were spying on us. And I forget what his name is, the Alan, what's his name situation?
Alan Gross or something like that.
Yeah, that was separate. If I recall this correctly, and I can go to the New York Times website right now and look it up, but if I recall correctly, the exchange for him was separate from the 3 Cuban prisoners, if I recall correctly.
What did we offer? This is Neil Jahari. What did we offer then in return? I mean, what was the incentive for Cuba to release him? We gave up something. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on what that was. It was only like...
Yeah, let's see. I'm drawing a blank on it too. I'm looking on. Let's see. Here's a Time magazine. Oh, wait. Let's see.
Excuse me, John. Part of the reason I'm mentioning this is that I think in terms of Dave Goldstein's comment, that you could take the position that the reverse is true as well, that Cuba is willing to negotiate and, interact with the U.S. It's not strictly a, we don't want to have anything to do with the United States position.
Let's see. It says here's a Guardian article. I'm sorry, it's a Telegraph article. Let's see. 3 Cuban prisoners released as part of, let's see, they were the Cuban 5, group of intelligence agents who were arrested in Miami a decade and a half ago. Accused of spying on the local Cuban exile community. Let's see.
But were they released relative to the Alan? I can't remember his last name. Was that a trade?
Yes, I'm looking up. Let's see.
Gross, I think was his last name, but I'm not sure.
What do you think it was, Dave?
Gross?
It could be. I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
All right, we're going to run out of time for the provision of that, but Jahari, you still are going to get points for the producing a fact. Okay. So I will ask one more time, are there any more cons or details or pros that anybody would like to ask? This is the last round of contribution.
Alan Gross.
Okay. I'm asking one more time if there's any further contributions in terms of other details, pros or cons.
Yes, one more. If this bill passes, it would probably make it a lot easier for Cuban baseball players to come to the major leagues, and so Major League Baseball would be improved with a new influx of talent.
I love it.
Mark, I must admit, I think that's a legitimate concern. Baseball has a lot of money. Money carries power.
Yep.
And then, Bob, I have a question when you're done.
Okay. And let me get this. This was a Cohen. Okay, that was a Cohen. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jahari?
Okay. Alan Gross was freed
as
as a
Jahari, I have to be respectful as the facilitator. We either have to get a brand new fact. You already got the credit for having come up with the details. You just have to. Do you have any other details or pro that you want to offer at this time?
Pro-Cuban policy. Well, I see it as
one or detail other than the one that you just started rehashing. We're glad you did it. It's just that we're trying to see if we can get this game done in the time period that we've allocated.
Well, in terms of business with Cuba, I mean,
this is going to be a pro or con or detail.
It's a pro.
Thank you. Okay.
It's a pro, and it's a detailed pro.
Okay, tell us what it is, sir.
Well, uh, in terms of business with Cuba, it's an untapped market. I mean, they have very little internet there. They have very few telecommunications devices. They have no real cellular infrastructure. They have very poor infrastructure. They have, they have nothing really there that we have here, but we can offer them that, and you can establish incentives for corporations to do business with Cuba and set up shop in Cuba.
Could you add a couple of things? You started saying internet, computers,
What I said is the economic and business the economic and business incentives are enormous with Cuba. We're talking about technology. We're talking about agriculture. We're talking about educational opportunities, arts, art and entertainment exchanges. We're talking about a great deal of stuff here, not just sports, but we're talking about a great deal here. They're going to open up the embassy within a few months, and that embassy will establish an American foothold that hasn't been in Cuba for 50 years. And with that foothold, that can open up a lot of lucrative business opportunities for American corporations to get into Cuba. Car dealerships, manufacturing, agriculture, infrastructure, cellular infrastructure, internet technology, all of it. It's right there, and they're chomping. They're chomping at the bit. So if you can create economic incentives for them to invest in Cuba, there'll be a huge return for them.
Okay, so you're also adding, I forgot to write down. Who said if those commies arrest anyone, the embargo goes back into, that was a Goldstein kind of.
And that's just it. And that's another thing. There is no guarantee that they will remain a communist country as we know it right now, because the Castros got to die sometime, and as more of our ways, more of our cultural exchanges occur, the people in Cuba are going to say, hey, wow, America's got some really nice stuff. We can have nice things like they do. And they can motivate political and social change, opening the floodgates in Cuba. Cuba could be the United States Caribbean branch, or Florida's Caribbean branch, if you get where I'm coming from. There's a lot of opportunity that is untapped there, that we've been blocked from because of this ridiculous embargo that's never worked.
Okay. Now, we are now, I will ask one more time, by any chance is Mr. Schinover still with us? Okay. Then we will proceed then with one more time. Each person will then go ahead and offer, people have an opportunity to try to persuade those individuals that might be sitting on the sidelines. So we'll go around one more time for each person to express why they think this bill should be passed or should not be passed. And we'll start with Alan.
Excuse me, Bob, can I interject something? So is the intent then that we're going to, procedurally, we will limit the details provided by the sponsor of the bill to one detail?
Yes. One or two.
Okay, because part of it is by doing that.
Can we take this offline before two people?
Okay, all right. Okay.
Thank you. All right, let's start off with Alan. Eve? Shit. Lost her. Okay. Mr. Cohen, one way or the other, why you think this bill should be passed or should be defeated. Your last passionate, your passionate reason for either I want this bill to be passed and come up with all the passionate why we should. I mean, just whatever you need to say to get people to pass this bill, or whatever you need to say to get people not to do this bill. Last chance for comment.
Cuba is a mere 90 miles away from the United States. It's been a pariah for 53 years, and it doesn't pose a threat to the United States. And it's time to stop acting like a passive aggressive against Cuba. I mean, it doesn't pose a threat, and I just think like the United States should act mature about it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Yeah.
Last passion reason before we vote.
Last passionate reason before we vote.
In other words, last passionate reason why you want this bill either defeated or why you'd like to see this bill passed.
Okay, I'm going to pound on my TV tray here right now and say, I want my damn Cuban cigars.
Thank you. Very good. Mr. Farina, last impassioned speech in favor or defeat of this bill.
And rum.
I believe that the embargo has not produced the desired results, and that the economic and cultural exchange is the way to produce, change. And I agree and support the ideas that have been expressed that have outlined that if you can get business involved, improve the economy, and think things better and exchange ideas, you're going to create change, and it will benefit the U.S. and Cuba both.
Thank you very much, even though it broke up. Mr. Goldstein, any impassioned reasons for defeat or for support of this bill?
I would say that Cuba remains a hotbed of terrorism, and they export terrorism to other countries, and we should not recognize them any more than we should recognize or remove embargoes from Russia or from Iran. I think they fall into the same category.
Very good, sir. And now Mr. Malzberg. An impassioned either for defeat or for the passage of this bill. Ethan. Did I lose him? All right. Mr. Malinsky.
I've only become more enthusiastic by the discussion of the members of this committee. I think just the opportunity of doing a Barrett-Jackson car auction of those great old cars out of Cuba would make an amazing television show, putting all kinds of new fuel-efficient vehicles and create a whole new pattern for Cuban education in electrical and mechanical engineering. The fact that their skills in agriculture without insecticide are things that we can greatly benefit by. So there's nothing but benefit by creating an open relationship with these people on all strokes of technology. So there.
Okay.
To produce that car show would be fantastic.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, Mr. Malzberg, thank you.
Ah, that's weird. I had to log out, log back on my speaker. My microphone.
All right, so do you have any last impassioned reason why we should go forward or why it should be defeated?
My only point was going to be that, after 53 years of nothing changing and nothing coming from it in an embargo that is outdated and really not useful anymore, it only makes sense to get past it, move on, beyond the rum and the cigars and the sandwiches and the dancing. There's a lot of economic boosts we can do for both sides that would make much more sense than trying to hold an embargo that's pretty much a big brother holding a grudge against a little brother at this point.
Okay, and then the last person, or next to last, Mr. Oppenheimer. Any more impassioned reasons?
I would just echo exactly what Ethan said. It's been 53 years, and the primary purposes for doing this have changed significantly, and it's time to move on.
Okay, and one more chance. By any chance, is Mr. Shinover available? Hello, Mr. Shinover. All right, unfortunate. Okay, so under the circumstances, we will then proceed with the vote, and I will now call for a roll call vote. And we will begin with Miss Allen, and she is absent. Mr. Cohen, yay or nay?
Yay.
Okay, Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Yay. Mr. Farina. Mr. Farina.
Yay.
Okay. Mr. Goldstein.
Yay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I got it. Do you see it on the screen? Next to your name? Gary? Gary? Okay.
His mic breaking up.
Oh, his mic is off. Okay. All right, Mr. Goldstein?
Nay.
All right, excellent. Mr. Malzberg?
Yay! Yay!
Okay. Mr. Malinsky?
Yay.
Okay. Mr. Oppenheimer?
Aye.
All right. And we'll give Shinover a nay, just for shit and giggles. And Mr. Tyler said that he was going to put a nay for this, so in abstentia. So,
Okay. He was a co-sponsor of the bill, Bob.
I'm sorry?
Mike Tyler was the co-sponsor of the
Right.
bill.
That's why he already asked to have his vote counted, even though he couldn't.
As a no. Okay.
Yeah. For purposes of alternate, in case there were too many. So it is passed with 6 yeas, and notice how the tally did show up correctly. So that piece of software is working. So therefore, we have passed the bill, and of course, if there was a better way to get the scores calculated, I will have these posted on the website. And I want to thank all the attendees, and I want to remind the attendees that we are looking for each one of you, if possible, to come up with a bill for a future meeting. And I'd like to know if there's going to be anybody who would be willing to volunteer to come up with a simple bill, like Mr. Malzberg, Mr. Malinsky, or Mr. Davis. Do you think one of you would be willing to come up with a bill for a future meeting? Hello? Yes? Thank you very much. So that means we'll expect something from Mr. Davis, from Mr. Malzberg, and Mr. Malinsky to come up for a short bill of their choice for the next week. And I want to thank you all for an excellent committee meeting. As a reminder, we are going to be meeting next week. Please register so we can utilize the registration software. And now I will end the meeting, and we'll go right into a very brief. Let's take about a 4-minute break. Let's take 4 minutes as a break, and then we'll do some debriefing to see if we really got the improvement that I believe we may have. Fair enough?
Excuse me, Bob, real quickly, will David or someone be sending out a notice about registering each week like that? I mean, that's the intent, right? We have to register for each session, so will there be a reminder coming out for us to register each week?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, I mean, yes, we can do that, but I would like to believe, just like you do, that the people who sign up for this will, I mean, yes, we will ask you to register. I mean, we'll talk about that afterwards. How's that?
Okay. All right.
All right, so if everybody would like to take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and I just want you to know that if we had started on time, I've been watching the time, we've almost got this down in an hour. So we actually, once everybody got here, we went through the scenario, we did actually complete this thing in just about an hour. So I think that's a major accomplishment. With that, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good. Can I get you a Cuban cigar?
It was the marijuana hit that I just took. I'm kidding.
Puff, puff, pass, bitches.
God, what is that? Okay. Okay, come on, guys. Excuse me. Sorry.
You have reached the voicemail box of 517233.
David, if there's any way you could at least join the voice part of communication, if you're having problems with the sound, you can always call in on that number. It would be helpful if you could make it. Thank you. Okay, who's doing all this stuff? Ethan?
Yeah.
Please.
Mic on? Here I am doing all these ringtones. My mic is on. My bad.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Let's see. Hopefully they'll come back. So, what did you think so far of, of this method?
What's that?
What did you think of the round of play?
There's a couple techie things that would be nice. Make it a little easier.
All right.
For instance, if everybody was on a site that had some kind of techie thing, everybody that's present, they click in. It's not one person clicking them in. When it's time to vote, everybody has a 10-second or 15-second window. They all vote, and then it all pops up at the end. Nobody follows anybody else. It all just pops up. That kind of thing. That's a techie thing for a game. That's not a us thing for a game.
Right.
Those kind of things would keep people from, and granted, but how do I word this? There is pressure from other congressmen, senators, whatnot, to vote a certain way, and you're going to see how they all vote. But it's more pressure if I see the first 5 people vote before I get to vote a certain way. That kind of thing. So it makes it more of a game where you don't know until everybody else puts up their votes. Damn, they tricked me. That kind of thing.
Okay. So voting would appear all at the same time.
If they could do that, yeah, sure. If there was a way they could press Y or N, and then, starting now. So the one person that's in charge hits whatever go is, and then everybody presses whatever they press, and then it pops up. If there's a techie way to do that, and I know there is, but that's a small tech company for computer games that's not us. That's someone.
But there may be an app that we could use.
Right. There might be, or we could design an app. And then, this is again for people that are really into this kind of thing. This isn't my particular thing.
Okay.
They'd have to know more ahead of time about the 3 topics or the few topics to choose from.
Well, people have almost a week in advance notice.
Okay. Because I didn't read it. If I had the email, I didn't see it. I didn't read it. So I didn't have anything to say pro or con on any of them except, over the top.
Well, that was good. Everything you did was excellent.
So,
It was
but they were stereotypes. Come on, sandwiches and dancing? Come on.
So what? That's fine. Any other thoughts?
Cigars and rum are a lot more viable than sandwiches and dancing. Not that I smoke cigars, but I know the quality of a Cuban cigar because I know. Rum, I could debate that one because I've been to Nassau. Some pretty good rum there.
Gotcha.
You get the gist of it. It's had I had more time, I could have had a little bit more on that topic. That's a good topic. I've talked to people about that before. I like that one. I'm glad we went over that. Unfortunately, whatever we vote today won't necessarily mean anything.
Well, that's part of what we're hoping is going to happen because, for example, if this would have been live and that Votocracy folks would have been involved in it, that's what they're looking for with this game.
Yeah, hot topics.
Right.
That's a good hot one. Especially with the president pushing to open it up.
Gotcha.
53 years is a long time to hold a grudge. A literal pissing match.
Agreed. Gary, now that you're back, what did you think about this compared to the prior version? We can't hear you.
Well, I think it moved along better, and it was more efficient. So I liked it. I thought it was much better. I mean, it's going from the point of view of going through these cycles and trying to improve it is good. It's hard to imagine if somebody's coming in for the first time how they would view it, or what could be done to make that that experience for a first timer coming in a little bit better.
Well, I think
I found it difficult to deal with the scope of the bill, not having time to read it and do any level of research on it.
Okay, thank you for that. The stuff was available a week ago, and email.
Yeah, I didn't look at it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Goldstein, got any thoughts? How did you think this round of play? First of all, this is a totally different version. So what was your reaction to this so-called improved version?
Generally positive. I thought that the fact that we got the time segment worked out well. I thought it was a real pro.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Either what you thought about it, or something that you still would think would be a good improvement.
I'd like to be able to see people deliver brief speeches about their bill.
So,
in other words,
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, please.
So the main sponsor would be allowed would be allowed up to 5 minutes, or let's say up to 3 minutes, to make a brief speech about his bill, explaining his background, explaining his thinking, without just having a list of pros and cons.
Dave, would you see that as being verbally during the discussion, or would that be part of the document when the bill's introduced, or both?
I see it during the discussion,
Okay.
Okay. Jahari?
Yep.
Okay. This is the first time you've seen this, so you have no comparison to the prior stuff we did. As a first-timer, since some people were asking, what would a first-timer respond? What did you think of it?
The bill crafting process.
The whole session. You did read the material, correct?
A little bit. The process was okay. I think that it would catch on, but I think some people would find it a little dry, maybe a little boring. But that's the whole thing about crafting legislation. You got to bring something to the table in order to participate, and vote and discuss what you're going to be discussing. it's a good start. I think the more people that you pull into it, I think that they're either going to love it or they're going to hate it. It's going to be for them or not them. They would have to really, really, really be into the legislative process to really want to get involved and participate.
Okay. You consider yourself kind of in that realm. Is this something that you'd be willing to play again?
Yeah, I think so. It would be. I see this I see this as a teaching tool. Perhaps that could be. I see this as a teaching tool that could be put to use in schools, so that students can learn, or can get a feel for how how legislation is crafted and debated. You have student councils across the nation, and they kind of have an idea, but they basically do all this stuff and not really have a whole lot of a clue. I mean, student council, is a popularity contest on issues that are not really that important. But if you kind of grab them and get them interested into this stuff and show them that it's important, the applications at the school level are enormous. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna put high school.
Even if you were to go to junior high school level, but present it at their level, I think that they could get into it.
Well, please keep in mind, this is not intended for an educational experience other than a kind of hidden agenda, which is the basis of this entire project. And we've talked about, how we might go forward with a version of the animated game, et cetera, et cetera. So your point's well taken, but let's stay focused on terms of an experience for people to kind of get together. They get to socialize a little bit. They get to learn about other people across the country, and they get together and talk about, issues and pieces of legislation that would be interesting. I mean, the whole point is, and we're missing a point here. If you don't see the people, we're going to miss a major experiential thing. We've got to have people who've got to at least be able to have a camera and can show their emotions and hand movements and things like that. That excuse me. To me, that's essential. Excuse me. I am so sorry. I'm still not through this thing. So, but what would you do with the game as you see it now? I mean, I think if you attended one more session, and we'll see how it goes next week, because as we, I mean, this is the first time we've gone through without developmental activities. We just said last week we talked about how it's supposed to work. I made changes in the process, and today we started right from scratch and was pretty good about it. Anything though you could imagine to make it more fun, or any suggestions?
To make it
Bob?
fun?
Yeah.
I don't think you can make lawmaking fun. It is what it is.
Well, it's been suggested to have silly bills too. I mean, that was the one criticism from. Yes.
I was going to say one element it may appeal to is I've known some people, especially younger people, who have been into the LARPing, the live action role playing. A lot of times you see that characterized in the media and medieval kinds of things and that, but they may be adapted where people assume roles. And there's a lot of some of the stuff where you get to know people through questioning may not be appropriate because people come in and they they assume a role in the process and they act it out. So and it's quite popular across the country. I mean, it's not a highly popular, but there's a, that it could be adapted or marketed in terms of maybe bringing those populations in.
Could you clarify what is LARPing? What did you call it?
It stands for live playing.
Okay, unfortunately you've been breaking up all along, but let's try it again. You said, what is it? Live
action role playing. And you've seen movies and things on TV or in the movies where a lot of times people dress up like medieval warriors and they reenact those kinds of things. But they come in and they assume a role and a purpose and use strategies and teamwork to do that. There might be an element of people out there that this could be marketed to and maybe tweaked a bit that it would appeal to those folks, where they actually come in and play a certain type of person in the legislative process.
Okay, well that's a great idea, and maybe when the website finally gets released, maybe that's something that we can do.
Mm.
I like that. I like that idea. Okay, Mark, got any thoughts?
Yes, I thought this has a lot of potential. Once we start getting bills for which let's say there's not as much support, bills that are more controversial, I think we'll get more passion involved. Because this bill, there was a lot of support and there wasn't a lot of controversy involved in it. But again, once we get bills that are more controversial, for which there's maybe you could see a 50-50 split, I think there'll be more discussion, more passion, more involvement on the part of people.
Thank you. I appreciate that's a very, very valid point. Anything else you would like to see an immediate improvement on?
No, I mean, again, I thought it was a good demo, and there was a lot of positives to it. And I hate to repeat myself, but once we start getting bills that are more flavorful, I think we'll be getting a lot more discussion.
I'd like to agree with you on that. Mr. Goldstein, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think what I've heard so far, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
I have nothing to add.
Did you think today was a better day than times past?
Yes.
Okay.
One thing that does occur to me is that are we presenting this as some sort of a attacking the status quo kind of exercise?
I'm not sure I understand what you said.
Aren't we saying that our approach here is completely different than the existing power structure or the existing way that things are done in Washington?
In the long run, yes, and we still have to work out the kinks to be able to legitimately create that. Because here's the theory, David, and thank you for bringing this up. The folks at Votocracy would like to see us to be able to really come up with a cyber Congress. In fact, Joel, are you still there?
Yep.
Good. Joel,
I'm here.
Good. Joe was an advocate way back when we started this project. And I have had conversations, for example, with, you remember Steve Rush?
Yep.
Okay.
Steve Rush is still out there. He's still far too radical for you guys. He actually has an opinion, and you would like to censor him. But go ahead.
Well, that's actually one of the things I was going to bring up with the group because, quite honestly, he has been, I continue to meet with him once a week, and he's been kind of from afar monitoring things, and he actually would like to make a presentation to this group, and I propose instead of a presentation, why don't you come up with a piece of legislation, and then you could be defending that piece of legislation or this modus operandi that he would like to, excuse me, like to have on his agenda. And it would be really nice to have different guests and people coming in. But added to it is this notion of if we can get the committees, and then the committees expand to actual people running for the Congress, because remember, a bill would have to go into the committee. The committee, in this case, passed it, and then the bill itself, as passed through the committee, would be debated by the whole congressional group. Excuse me. How that's going to work, I have no idea, but that would be the next level. And it's at that point a company like Votocracy would say, you know, I think we would be willing to sponsor, you know, some real good activities, because it is exactly what they are trying to do. We're ahead of them because we're working out the details and the mechanics of it. So I think indeed there would be other websites that would be interested in this modality if we can move forward. Conservative Musings is one of the groups that wants to look at it. Excuse me, and you know, have a couple rounds of play before they consider sponsoring. So, yes, in the long run, David, you're absolutely correct, because Votocracy would then take to its 10,000 members this group's work and showing the comparison to what the real Congress is doing, and that would put us on the map like crazy. So you're right on target with that. So for any last comments, anybody wants to offer?
Yes, I've been sitting and listening to all of this.
Thank you.
And I have to apologize as I'm trying to integrate what I've heard across the board. But understand, that's what I'm attempting to do. We've acknowledged that there is some piece of technology that allows a machine-based facilitation as opposed to a roll call that you do, Bob, so fantastically by acknowledging everybody's presence. So let's just say there's some piece of technology that will end up, let's say, time-keeping the game to a fixed sequence. And this is where, there's this idea of technology. There's a timekeeper and role taker piece of interface that people log into for bill XYZ. That's one piece. The second piece is a combination of what I see as an assembly line practice of what we actually did today, in some refinement of going through the steps of acquiring input and establishing a determination of whether pro or con, and then finally voting a bill into the next phase. So let's say there's an assembly line process, and then there's a game quality of what I'll call, it's like beat the clock. So we have an assembly line process, and we have to do it in a time period. So what I'm thinking is, let's say you end up having X number of people, and we want more than 50 and more than 100 who are trying to participate. So of course the timekeeping and the ability to do things within an hour, half an hour, will not happen. So the participants in the game have the pull the cord quality that we have in Detroit, where you have to stop the assembly line because a person needs to be heard for whatever input they have. So I see the stop the assembly line pull as a part within the game. Another thing that I heard that is really quite exciting to me, maybe not so much for Votocracy, but for the game player concept, and going back to your interface where it states the number of bills that are on the floor to be debated, imagine a game board kind of like Jeopardy, where you have individual rows that actually are periods of time. So you can go in and choose to debate a bill in the period of the 60s, or go in and choose to debate a historical bill, say, at the turn of World War I. So you can actually end up having a reliving and a practice of old legislation where old bills come up and are debated for people who like playing ancient history, per se. So that's just what I heard in this as the game expands into a little more historical reference, education, and fantasy, and at the same time has an element of the clock is ticking. You have X number of things to achieve in a certain period of time. Well, the bill gets passed, and there's consensus as to what happens to the next sequence of when the bill gets passed. Are we going to take it to another house? Is it going to go on a game board as to the winning bills that end up being successful majority over the quickest amount of time? Is that what makes a bill rise to the highest order of success? So these are just my attempt to integrate the comments at the end of this. But it'd be really great to see the true piece of technology that we have available for us that's built, which is the autocracy engine. That would probably be helpful.
I'm in the process of trying to negotiate call it trial version of it in a very near period of time, and I'm hoping to do that. So yes, thank you for that. And you've brought up the thought of something else that is seeing if there are additional apps out there. Neil, any last-minute thoughts you had?
Yeah, I have a few observations, Bob. One is I like this better than what we had done before because I think by going with several different weeks, on the same bill, I think we run the risk of losing interest and excitement about doing something in the present. Secondly is that, and I'm not sure how we would go about doing this other than extending the time, but I think it would help the game if we could have more debate before the vote on the bill and have more opportunity for people to try to persuade other people about how to vote. I think this ties in with somewhat what Dave Goldstein was saying earlier, about people delivering a speech, for 5 minutes on the background. Because tonight it seemed like, and I realized it was just a demonstration, a run-through, but we went around and we gave the comments and then we just kind of took the vote, but we didn't really have an opportunity to really try to, I think, throw out arguments to persuade each other. So I think that would be helpful. And then secondly, another item is that, and I think this is one that we probably just leave it alone for now and not do anything, but just keep it in mind. And that Mark triggered this idea or comment about when he said that he thought there'd be more excitement and enthusiasm if we get more controversial bills. And Mark, you remember when we wrestled with an issue when we were looking at the Cyber Congress that there'd be an incentive for people to introduce a quote-unquote safe bill that was likely to get a lot of support in order to earn points. So people would stay away from introducing controversial bills because if it doesn't pass, they don't score points. So in that regard, I think we just need to kind of monitor the types of bills that are coming in, and if it looks like there's a pattern where lots of people are submitting bills that everybody's going to vote for. Like, for example, if I would introduce a bill that says the President of the United States is required to love this country, everybody's going to support that, right?
No, I'm not.
So anyways, that's just something I think we should just keep in mind as we work through this. But I like tonight. I think it moved along pretty well, and I think we had good input, and everybody participated, and I think we had a pretty high level of interest.
To accommodate what you're talking about, as we have the entering the chamber to play the game in an assembly line practice with the chance for the pull cord, and we're basically there to beat the clock to see what kind of consensus, majority, or the bill falls apart occurs. I think it's important to have that social interaction that may end up being quite open-ended and could be any number of attempted conferences or gatherings of the legislators or, party and bullshit, which is what people like. I still would appreciate or have suggestion that everyone create a little Pal Talk account and be nothing more than a person as a fly on the wall and go into any number of the rooms that are out there, whether people are just playing records or people are out there flirting or people are out there actually engaged in rigorous, caustic political conversation. Recognize what this general public will do if given the free forum to talk about politics. We are far too intellectual, structured, and civil, and that's not what will end up being what this will become if we're successful. In that vein, if you can go to your interface, I've been copying and pasting this cute little video that my brother-in-law sent me that juxtaposes a Formula racing team pit crew from the 60s to the current time. You just end up recognizing the difference between what a pit crew does in the 60s to prepare a racing vehicle to go back out in a race and the time sequence of what they do to a new Formula One racer. And just to give you an idea of the difference in technology in racing, I think if we really are going to look for the general public of a contemporary time with a younger audience that we want, we're going to be surprised. It's not going to be what we think.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you can go out to the chat box and take a look at the link that's there and just click it as something that you do at the end of this thing. But I think today was very productive, and I'm going to try to go to the previous document that lays out the let's call it the sequences within the rapid prototyping of a bill and see if I can put some assembly line structure to that.
Thank you. That would be very helpful. Okay. I'm going to end the meeting and saying we are pretty much ending on time. We did the bill, we did a process. We are going to go ahead and try next week. I am hoping that I will get from Mr. Davis and Mr. Cohen, because I don't think I've seen a bill from you yet, and Mr. Malsberg and Mr. Malinsky. If you could come up with a short bill, following the format, that's out there now with the examples that we have, I would really appreciate if you guys could at least two of you for sure make a contribution, because again, I can't do everything myself, and we do need some help. So with that, I want to thank you all. I'll keep you posted with developments as they occur. And only thing I do also want to invite, if there is anybody on a different night, most likely Thursday night, that would be willing to spend a little time to help in the redo of the teaser. I'd like to see if some of you guys could just, if it's going to be a one-on-one, I'm happy to have some time on some one-on-one time to do this improvement. But is there anybody here that would be interested in helping kind of resequence the teaser? Any volunteers?
Well, Bob, I've got some ideas, but my school starts up for me next week again. We're on spring break this week. That's why I'm here.
Right, but that you said you and I are going to do it offline, so we don't have to worry about that. I'm talking about other people on the team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you and I talked about trying to do something yet, in the next few days before school starts. Does anybody else want to offer a little time to help resequence the teaser? Okay. So I do hope that you guys that we've spoken will be in here next week, and we'll go run through another bill, and we're probably, depending on what works out with David Schinimer and one other thing, I would like, the deadline for launch, as far as I'm concerned, is the 15th, because that will be our birthday, which will end the second year of this project and begin a third year. But I'm going to try to get everything converted over to Go2Politics so that next time you try to go to the website, I'll send out an announcement. And Gary, when you have a chance, maybe you can give me a call tomorrow if you got time.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you, and you all have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Hi, guys.
Good night.